Hey YouTube, it's me Turkish Delights, and before we get started with everything in this video, I wanted to quickly make my excuses as to why some of the quality hasn't been where it should be with the videos. Never mind the fact that I don't actually put that much work into the videos, but they still take so long. But I did something really cool over the weekend with my family, and we went to a place called the Aegean Project. I would definitely recommend you guys to look up this project online. It's effectively these absolute mad lads set up this conservation effort to basically conserve rainforest plants and different habitats around the world in these giant biodomes down in Cornwall in the UK. Where we sort of seen giant biodomes before, well, in the Isle. This was really cool for me. Just kind of almost live out the experience of walking into one of these domes in the Isle in real life. Being able to experience a rainforest is just an amazing feeling. And yeah. But anyways, next we have the news with who? Well, who else but Amarok, who once again has been hard at work trying to solve some issues with host migrations, which could be one of two things. Either A, taking the responsibility of the server from the host to a new client, or B, it could be something to do with the server duplications, which I learned from this wonderful little thing here. Next of all, we know the fact that because Amarok is working on the server duplication, it leads me to believe that that is what the data migration thing is to do with, is to try and sort out the servers. There are still ghost servers, but it is just a UI issue and not an actual server issue, which is really good. We're one step closer towards finishing a lot of the issues with the horde test. Now, I thought we wouldn't get a Kissen Kitten quote, but somebody in my comment section last video told me that there was a quote about Oviraptor that I missed. So here you go. Parkour is coming to a different species. I'm locking in Dryo. That's all enough said. We know that Dryo is going to get springboarding. I bet it's going to be Dryo. And now we have quotes from you guys? So here we have someone talking about the fact that the elders right now in the game are still growing with the growth rates past 75%, even though it says 0, which is absolutely true. This is something that I forgot to mention. We realized this as well. And we also realized that using salt rocks or sometimes logging out the server can also fix this. So thank you again for Smeasel for actually reaching out to me to leave this comment. I appreciate it quite a lot. Now, before we get into today's video topic, I wanted to cover what seems to be a bug with Tyrannosaurus's crush attack, especially when it picks you up and then flings you into the air, where what will effectively happen is that you will be flung around the map, depending on where the Pteranodon is looking, and you'll just be flying all over the place. At first, we thought this was a hack, and a very creative hack at that, potentially made to grief players. However, Jay managed to capture a Rex doing this against a boar. And it actually does seem to just be a bug, or a very rare bug, associated with flinging objects once you pick them up with T-Rex. This bug, I think, does need to have a bit more attention put onto it, because the potential to grief players with this bug is very high. A lot of people that I've spoken to, and even I thought so as well, that this was a hack. It's not actually a hack, it's just a bug. So there may be a lot of people who are being falsely reported as being hackers, for basically being themselves unknowingly using a bug. So please keep that in mind. Now on to the discussion that I wanted to have in this video, and it's to do with megapacking and mixpacking, the idea that these are two things that are not healthy for the game. And let me explain what I mean by they're not healthy for the game, because as well as that, they're also not really intended for the main gameplay loop, the Isle. And the developers have stated in the past that it's not really something that is meant for you to be able to do. It's more or less an unintended consequence of developing a game like this. So let me explain. For one, megapacking. There are group limits in the game. If megapacking was supposed to be this intentional thing that you're meant to do, there would be group limits. However, there may be times naturally in the game where you do group up with more people than your group, depending on what's going on. Let's say, for example, that there was an entire herd of Diablos migrating, and you were one pack of 4 Dilos, and you were to also encounter another pack of 4 Dilos. To those Diablos, you are megapacking, but you and your group, it's 2 separate groups of Dilos that just happen to be hunting the same targets. That's of course just understandable in the game. The other thing we have to mention, of course, is the fact that when it comes to mixpacking, is that the dinosaurs have a local species to chat. You're not really supposed to be talking to members who aren't in your own species. You then have the fact that you have what used to be the bong cloud, but is now the mixpack icon that appears when you have too many of different dinosaurs in a certain area. This is meant to be a band-aid fix to let you know that there's a mixpack so you can stay away from them. Then you also have the other inverse of this, which is that if you were to make it such that the scent range for it was much larger, you may have groups of people that go out of their way to kill the Mixpackers. So we know that from the game's general standpoint that it doesn't really like these two features. And there are more reasons than just that what I said right there. You have the balance of the game does not seem to favour Mixpacking or Megapacking. So let's start with Megapacking again. The group limits have been set up in such a way, group-on-group fights are meant to feel more fair than a solo-on-solo fight, if that makes sense. I think it's very, very difficult to nail the solo-on-solo balance and the group balance at the same time. A simple reason is that, let's take Allo versus Tenno. You have 3 Allos in a group, but you can have up to 8 Tennos. I'm fairly sure, and I haven't been able to test this of course, but I'm fairly sure that 8 Tenontos would pose a very, very real threat to 3 Allos, despite the fact that individually, each Allo just wallops a Tenno. You know, in an actual fight, it just wallops the Tenno. Also, the Tennos can run away. But then you have this almost inverse where 8 Tennos, if they can just defeat an Allo very, very quickly, it will put the Allo into a position where it can't run away from the Tenno and it has to fight. And in this fight, it will die to the Tenno. So it makes really weird balance when we consider the group and the many. That the two groups are supposed to be decently well versed against each other. So the idea would be that 3 Allos would be about as powerful as 8 Tenontos. So both groups don't really want to mess with each other because either, you know, everyone dies or the majority of both groups die and then they just give up at the end. So we can see this in Megapacking. If you Megapack, you now start to break this balance and then a lot of group matchups start to feel way, way less fun. Like, we have to remember as well that, like, we have Apex groups. It does feel unfun when you have 3 Allos versus 1 Stego or 1 Trike, in the same way that it may feel unfun to have 1 Diablo versus 8 Raptors. But then you have to consider what a full pack of, or what a full herd of Diablos, or what a full herd of Trikes looks like. And it is having, you know, 3, 4 plus members in a group. You're not touching that. So it's a very, very interesting dynamic there when it comes to the Megapack. What is intended versus what isn't intended. You then get onto the Mixpack. Every single dinosaur has their own strengths and weaknesses sort of baked into their kit. You know, whether it be your turn rate, your speed, your ability to apply certain status conditions onto your opponent, how quickly you can apply those status conditions. Something like a T-Rex can apply fractures way easier than something like a Pachy does. But against things around Pachy's size, Rex is so much worse, because the Pachy can actually catch up to things like Raptors and Dinos, given the time. The Rex won't. So you see where I'm coming from here. Like, they all have their different strengths and weaknesses, and while they share certain parts of their kit, the way it's utilized is very, very different. So when you start Mixpacking, you start covering for the weaknesses in the other dinosaurs, and in most cases, you end up compounding strengths. So it can become very, very difficult to balance this, to which some developers might just go, we're not going to balance it. So obviously it is something that isn't really healthy for the game, because it makes it way harder for the game to really be as approachable, and it creates situations where the intended framework for the game sort of falls apart. And I think the biggest example of this was a lot of the B-roll footage you're going to see in the background, where you had a Megapack and a Mixpack, by the way, of a Trike, multiple Rexes, you had multiple Allos, and later on a bunch of Dibbles joined them as well. And then even more Rexes joined in. And in the first bit of the videos, you may be thinking that the Rexes are fighting against the Trike to kill them. And you may be going, oh, this poor Trike being abused by this pack of like Allos and Rexes and Zerado. No. This Trike is friends with them. Later on, once the Trike gets low, they all make their calls, and then they all just sit down and heal. And you may be going, well then, I bet that these guys then made the lives of everyone else in Delta hell. Not really, actually. They didn't actually hunt any other players. They did technically hunt another T-Rex, but they leg broke him and then let him go. They just sat down with him, he healed, and then he left. So they didn't even really ruin someone's day. Furthermore, they didn't actually play that bad. Both of these T-Rexes have been practicing how to fight the Trike, and the Trike has been practicing how to defend against 2 Rexes. So they're actually improving as players. So not only are these players not bad at the game, not only are they not ruining the server for everyone else, but their only crime, effectively, is gathering a bunch of JPEGs in one area where you don't have to go. And what difference is them gathering all of their JPEGs here than it would be if there was a fight? If this was an actual fight, what would the difference be? Like, it could just be a bunch of dinosaurs fighting a trike and a whole bunch of third partying happening. There's nothing different. So this is something that I really wanted to nail home here. By a lot of the arguments that people give to explain why Mixpacking is not good for the game, this Mixpack and Megapack didn't do any of it. Which means, by the logic, they did nothing wrong, which therefore means that Mixpacking and Megapacking is perfectly fine. You understand what I mean though, right? It's like, if the argument is that it just isn't a healthy thing for the game to have, because of X, Y, and Z, game mechanic this, intent, dev comment, you can't argue against that. The only thing you can say is, well, I bought the game and I want to have the freedom to Mixpack and Megapack, and that is fair enough. But for the official servers, if the devs don't want you to be doing that, then you shouldn't be able to do that, and there should be something in place to stop that. But on the unofficial servers, of course, do whatever you want. As Dondi said, the isle is meant to be the dinosaur sandbox game when it is completed. I believe that this therefore also applies to Mixpackers and Megapackers, because there isn't anything inherently wrong with it. Do you make the argument that the Mixpackers and Megapackers just ruin the game? Yes, I agree in the sense that they do ruin the game, but I remember back in a time in Spiro, where every so often you would get the Zerg of 8 Tenontos. And the Zerg of 8 Tenontos would wipe everything on the map, because Tenonto was actually really, really strong back then. Just not a lot of people really played it. And I will tell you, that was not fun. But there was nothing wrong with it. The Tenontos weren't Mixpacking, and they weren't Megapacking, but they wiped everyone. You could not play. You literally could not play on that server, because they would eventually find you. They had one of the best trots in the game. They had one of the best stamina pools in the entire game. They were decently fast, and they were good swimmers. And they would just maul you to death, and you would die. And it was unfun, in the same way that the Mixpacks and Megapacks are unfun. Like, it's not as if there's no mechanics in this game, and unintended consequences of things in this game that are really, really unfun to deal with. Cough, cough. Current pounce and bucking interactions, and current grappling interactions, and even pin interactions to a degree. We're getting really, really tired of these mechanics, right? But there are also a lot of older mechanics that I think I'm getting kind of tired of as well. Fact that alt bites only cost 2% stamina. I dislike the fact they don't do more damage than they used to from the normal bite for certain dinosaurs. I also dislike how fast they come out now. I dislike the fact that you can't really use them while walking. I dislike the fact that you can use them at 0% stamina. There's lots of mechanics in this game that I think when you add them up all together, but you have a Tenonto, for example, by a tree, just kicking 50 times in a row. And there's nothing to stop that. That's really, really unfun. That's really, really uninteractive. You could say that Tenonto is a really, really bad player for doing that. I said really a lot. Just, ignore that. The same way you could argue with the Mixpacker and the Megapacker. But if you just say that this is not healthy for the game because X, Y, and Z, for example, with the Tenonto example, what is the point of baiting out attacks if it means nothing? But then again, the argument would then be, well, should the Tenonto not be able to defend itself against this and this and that? Then it becomes, realistically, how many dinosaurs does a Tenonto need to be able to defend itself from, especially as it has got a really good trot, and it is decently fast for what it is in the game. So really, the only things it needs to be able to defend itself from a high number of would be the Raptors and the Dilos. But then how many Raptors or Dilos should it be able to defend itself from? Like, 8 of them? Or less than 8? Or, you know what I mean? Just, what is the number? These things need to be sort of decided upon, and the devs do have some of their decisions already made. But I do feel like there is a lot of wiggle room for what should be and what shouldn't be. This was a really, really long-winded way of me saying that I feel like as a community we do need to do better at arguing why Mixpacking is bad. I don't think just taking the emotional argument of like, well, I think Mixpackers are bad at the game, and I think that they're POSs, and they should like do this and do that, and like no one loves them. Like, okay, cool, whatever. Because what's to stop a Mixpacker from being like, I think you're a bunch of crybabies, insert swear word. I bought this game the same way you did. The devs, the gameplay doesn't actually say there's a rule that I can't do this. Stop telling me what to do. You're an egomaniac. Let me just have my fun. Nobody forced you to fight me. La 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 la. Wow, wow, wow. You're a crybaby. Because in my opinion, the first argument against Mixpackers and a pretend argument on the side of Mixpackers have the exact same weight in my opinion. Even though I don't like Mixpacking. Both of those arguments are equally valid to me. By which I mean both arguments suck. In my opinion, they suck. They are bad arguments. So therefore they are equally as important to me. However, as I said before, if you go by game mechanic A, game mechanic B, game mechanic C, death quotes. Therefore, no. The only argument, therefore, I said before is, well, I want to be able to do this. To which you can say, well, there is this. Unofficial servers, go have fun. You know what I mean? Like, there is a certain standard of play that we expect from the game, and that's perfectly fine. But the reason why I wanted to talk about this, especially, is that there are going to be mix packs that aren't doing what I showcased in the clips of that previous mix pack. There are going to be the people who make a mega pack and make a mix pack and then do go out of their way to use all of those dinosaurs' different strengths to put you in really, really unfun situations where the gameplay does in fact disintegrate, because you are no longer able to exploit the weaknesses of said dinosaur to escape them, or to defeat them, or to perhaps defend yourself away from them, because then another dinosaur that covers those weaknesses will come up to you as well and then join in the fight. I also do feel that we are seeing a whole lot of clan mentality coming back into the game. A lot of people seem to be remaking clans and going into the hotspots and then growing there. Now, I will reiterate as well the whole Diablo thing. I do believe that the AI Diablos are fueling this by a lot, because it does create a very, very easy food source for them to use to keep growing. And I can understand why people would say that these people are very, very low skill, because they're just eating Diablo AI, unlike me, who's eating boar and deer AI. Like, right, let's not pretend that everyone who isn't eating Diablo AI is PvP god X Nano, right? And is killing everyone else on the server and eating their diets and getting perfect fight. It's like, no, let's be realistic with ourselves, right? Like, there is a path of least resistance. The Diablo AI is the path of least resistance. But I get why the developers have implemented them in the way that they have. I wish that the developers would just confirm whether or not my speculation is correct. My current hypothesis is, judging by everything that they've said about the Diablo AI, they want to gather as much data as they can regarding how the Diablo AI reacts to other players. So what better way of doing that than putting it in the middle of the map in an open field, right next to a sanctuary and a migration zone and a bunch of patrol zones. That just makes sense to me, because you're going to end up with probably the majority of the server passing through that at some point, which means they will come into contact with the AI Dibble, which means Amarok gets way more data regarding the AI Dibbles. Then you have the fact that Kissen Kitten was talking about whether or not they will come to the live build, and she says we don't know, because we don't know how far the development's going to get during this whole test. For all we care, when we do get AI Dibbles, they may not even be in the fields. We've always seen Ceratopsians and concept arts mainly in the forests and jungles, or in the clearings around forests and jungles. So I guess that field and river delta does kind of match that, but I would prefer to see them in actual jungles, which would make them far harder to take down, because there's this ready, available defensive territory, and as well as it'll be harder to find. But then, of course, an argument that a friend of mine brought up would be that that would just help ESPers, and I agree. At the same time, though, they're ESPing, so everyone is pretty much a Diablo AI to an ESPer. I don't think it's fair to say that we shouldn't get fun and cool things in this game to be added, which are, in my opinion, pretty cool. AI dinosaurs that fill up the server, make it feel more alive, and mean that no matter what anyone else is playing in the game, you can at least do stuff. I like that. I have my own ideas as to how we could solve these problems, but I really, really want to hear yours before I talk about mine. I may do a follow-up video to this talking about how I would solve the issues, but a part of me kind of feels like, who really cares what I have to say about how I would solve it? It doesn't really change anything. I think the main thing that I can do is just give you my perspective on the problem, and then let you guys come up with your own ideas and give your own feedback. Because realistically, I am just a guy with a microphone and mediocre editing skills, to be perfectly honest, right? But yes, I'm able to do all these filters and set up all these noise gates and channels and set up and crop the images and apply these effects and get all the fusion tabs working to get. Who cares, right? It's just, my opinion doesn't matter more than you guys, is what I'm trying to say. But I wanted to give you guys my framework and my perspective for looking at Mixpacking and Megapacking, which will maybe give you guys some more ideas about it. Because my final thoughts on it are this. The fear of adding a system to combat megapacking and mixpacking that is designed to punish the player causes an issue where the game may not be able to tell what is or isn't mixpacking and megapacking, and furthermore, you will have people who try to abuse that system versus you. The argument I would make is this. Would you rather have these players, especially these probably potential future clans coming back into Arima, to abuse Mixpacking and Megapacking and make the servers almost unplayable at times? Or would you rather have this sort of feature that discourages that behavior and punishes them for it, and every so often you may be punished as well? I also want to hear what you guys think about the idea of potential clans from Legacy returning. And yes, I understand this video is going on, but this is my final topic point here. I sort of brought it on earlier on. A friend of mine called Jay made a point about a year ago saying that when we get Rex and Trike back into the game, we probably will be seeing a return of the clans from Legacy. And especially with the potential of Arima becoming the main branch and Legacy becoming the beta branch, we could be seeing a lot of these like clans return from Legacy and then go to Arima. Meaning we could be seeing way more Megapacking and Mixpacking. Furthermore, we have the fact that a lot of these guys seem to be doing methods such as growing dinosaurs like Maya to food farm for their friends, as well as laying eggs with trikes to feed their friends as well. And the trikes eat the grass and then produce more eggs. A lot of clans could be coming back. And so therefore I think that the devs do need to make a stance on Mixpacking and Megapacking, or at least give some sort of community notice about it, such that we know where their heads are at, and we know why they will or why they won't do a feature like that. So I also understand the pressure of the devs to create a feature to combat this that makes the most amount of people happy, which is really, really difficult to do. It's not going to be as simple as like, hey guys, in 2 weeks we came up with this idea, we've perfectly coded it, we've perfectly implemented it, it has no bugs, enjoy. Because that's probably what would happen is, we'd spend about 6 months creating this thing, testing a whole bunch of different ideas. They would come to us with the idea that QA thought was the best, then we would play it, and a whole bunch of people would go, this sucks. That's what would happen, right? But at the same time, doing nothing just means that we have a potential future for the Isle where these clans and these Megapacks and Mixpacks just sort of ruin the game for everyone else. So that's why I'm saying that something needs to be done, or at least said. I don't want to keep playing this game with the official servers, which I enjoy the most, if it means that my experience is just going to be the eventual running into this giant clan of people, and everyone else on the island being too scared to go to different locations and simply growing in the corner of the map because they don't want to run into the potential Megapack and Mixpack, which means no one's really interacting with anyone, and the gameplay literally grinds to a halt. I don't really want that for this game's future, but let me know what you guys think down below. These are mainly my thoughts about Megapacking and Mixpacking in the Isle. And as I said before, I really want to know what you guys have to say about this as well. And again, thank you for watching this video. Again, it is quite a bit longer, but I really wanted to get this out there and just share my thoughts about it, because I do think it is going to be a problem. And I do think that in the next few weeks, we are going to start seeing more YouTubers start to cover this issue. I'm just getting in on it first because I can see where it's going. I don't know which update it's going to be, either this update or the next update or something, but I predict that pretty soon, in the scheme of things, we are going to be seeing this massive explosions of clans entering into the Isle. And if I had to guess, it would be when the Arima branch becomes the main branch, we are going to be seeing potentially Megapacking and Mixpacking and potentially even hacking like we have never seen before. That's my prediction. And I'm not here to fearmonger. I'm just saying, looking at the way things are going right now, potentially it is going to get worse. Which is why I would implore you guys to ask the devs when you get the chance about, hey, developers, just ask them nicely. Next time Kissen Kitten's in chat, just ask her nicely, like, hey, Kissen, we've been seeing a lot of Megapacks and Mixpacks in the Isle right now. I was wondering what your thoughts are on this behavior, and the developers can say, and then we can sort of then have that discussion, as a community. But that's all my hopes for this. Those are my worries. And I want to know if you guys share the same thing. I guess I'll be going now. My voice is getting a little bit rough, and frankly, that's enough discussion. But it's a bit of a longer discussion, guys, so you guys sort of enjoy hearing my thoughts if you enjoy that. If not, then I'm really, really sorry. Yeah, that's it. Goodbye. This is awkward. Bye-bye. I'm gone.